Everybody talks about the transformative power of AI, but real transformation isn't about technology alone. It's about confronting the messy human reality of change. Today, we'll uncover why thoughtful implementation, risk taking, and facing resistance head on are non negotiables for success. Hi, welcome to the Digital Impact. My name is Charles, and today joining us is Rupali Kumbani, an executive leader driving digital and strategic transformations across industries like healthcare, real estate, tech, and fintech. Rupali's unique approach aligns people, purpose, and priorities, delivering operational efficiency and innovation at scale. Rupali, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you for such a kind introduction. I'm really excited for this conversation.
To get us started, you emphasize aligning people, purpose, and priorities before adopting new technologies. So, can you share what this looks like in practice when you first engage with an organization?
Absolutely. So that's I would say, my focus when I'm driving any initiatives, whether it's a new organization or you're starting a new initiative in your existing organization. So, what I mean by people, purpose, and priority is it has to start with the purpose, meaning why you're doing this and what you're trying to achieve out of it. Once that's clear, I'm a firm believer the changes we are doing is for the people. I'm not making life better for any kind of machine, but people. And these changes are done mostly by the people because my transformation is doing in collaboration with people. Technology, processes, all these are helpful tools, but still it's going to be the people who are driving these changes. So aligning them together to what we're trying to achieve, what is our purpose looks like, and getting them aligned with what we wanted to do it is helpful. And then it comes the prioritization. And this piece prioritization changes on a different level. So I'll give you an example. When I was driving an initiative called as global collaboration. So my organization was growing quickly at a global regions. We had a presence in North America, but we were expanding into Asia, we're expanding into Europe and UK. So my global CEO felt like we are working as individual silos rather than as a one region. So he wants to start with making this organization talking as a one unit rather than silos. So hence he was calling this as a global collaboration. Now, knowing why he wants to do that, I still was not clear that what he wants out of it. So talking with him and his peers, who are the C-suite, like CIO, CEO of a different region, I was able to identify what does this global collaboration means. And with that help of information, I created a strategic plan and tell them that this is what we're trying to achieve. You have 10 requirements, out of which we're going to be able to do five. This is the most priority item here is. So that's where the priority comes in a picture. Present that plan in front of them and saying, this is what we're trying to achieve. Now, let me build up a team to give you the solution and how we can attain the priorities you wanted to achieve. So this is one of the example I could say is the people, purpose, and priorities.
Now, a lot of our listeners, of course, have to manage massive amounts of documents. Obviously, we're Foxit, so we're a document company.
Yeah.
How can aligning these three elements help organizations leverage technology to transform data into actionable insights?
Yes, so documentation is piece, and I mean, it is most valuable things because you have employees who are working on something may no longer work with your organization or has some personal things comes up and cannot be part of your transformation. So documentation is a key information which will be leveraged for all historical information. So I totally get that. What aligns is a lot of time you will see frustration with around the documentation piece. I work a lot with the engineers, and a lot of engineers, when you tell them that you've done this great feature, you've done this great product, now write the documentation and see the look on their faces. They don't like this. I don't think so. Documentation is anybody's life favorite thing to do. That's one of the monotonous work anybody wants to do. So, hence, sharing why we are doing this, that purpose piece helps them to understand that what we're trying to achieve. It's not something that I just want you to work on non-meaningful work or something you would be more suitable for, but getting the value out of what the documentation brings to them and their team. So a lot of time you might not see value in your documentation, but you are going to be working on a next challenge where that somebody else done the same thing for you, helpful for you to navigate your transformation or your changes or your implementation. So giving that purpose is super helpful. So then people feel like I'm doing something to add value rather than just doing a task. Having people aligned to that, and even after that there are some people who will be like, no, I can leverage the technology. Great, tell me how you can leverage technology with that. A lot of time, technologies, a lot of time recently, people are using AI for documenting their information in a nicer way or in a presentation way. I'm all up for improving that. And if that is the priority for us, then yes, we go for that. But a lot of time we have to keep in mind that technology is not at full fledged where gives you the right information. So at the end, a human check is also needed. So we can leverage the technology when it is needed. For example, when I'm doing a healthcare transformation, I would rather want a person to do that rather than a technology to intervene and doing that, because there's a lot more impact going. It's people's life in here. So want to use technology in a more prioritized way rather than just implementing because it makes sense.
Well, now, a lot of organizations are in this crazy rush to implement AI, but that's because of the competitive pressures.
Yeah.
So, is speed more critical today than alignment? Or, I mean, how do you balance that urgency with strategic alignment?
Wow. I mean, that's the question every C suite is asking. So, everybody, you're absolutely right, wants to be at the forefront of AI. Even people who are using a co-pilot and saying that we are AI driven organization because, yeah, you are using a part of AI, but that's not what we mean by AI driven organization. So, to be honest, that's the question each leader has to think from: what is the bigger purpose of their organization is? What are we trying to achieve? Speed is good, but speed without strategic thinking in a long term would lead to a failure. You will have a short term goals, but you would not have a long term goals. An impact which you wanted to see for your organization is not showing up. And how I convince people is our leaders would be data driven, giving them information. Nobody right now has a complete crystal ball about what's going to be AI looking in 3 years, 5 years, but it's ever growing. Something which you have seen 2 months ago would no longer work in AI world right now. It's a continuously adaptable and over evolving AI world is. Prime example would be internet. 10 years ago, what internet was and how we are using right now is totally different. So to align people saying it's what is that long-term growth looks like? Are you searching for a long-term vision or are you more about a short-term vision? And I would say most of the leaders I connect with are long-term planner. They wanted to do things right rather than doing in a speed basis. Doesn't mean that we can't have a quick achievements. Yes, there is. Its long-term strategy does not take away from the short-term goals. There are places we can achieve in a short level, but you have to think strategically. Prime example is when I joined my nonprofit organization as a board of director. The first question I joined there was, can we use AI? We are hearing this AI, and is that helpful to us? And my answer to them is AI is super helpful. I am a technology person and I'm leading your technology board of directors. So, yes, that is part of it. But I'm also strategic. And for me to answer that question, I need to know your business model. I need to know the processes and people who are going to be using this technology. Then I can come to know and tell you what it is looks like. So taking a time to understand our business model, I identified that we cannot leverage AI for our core business because we provide voices to people who are affected by conflict through art and literature. So your voice is it's our valuable product is, and we can't use AI on it because then we are not using their authentic voice. We are not sitting with our own vision. It's something is AI driven. So AI is not useful there. But there are a lot of processes, which is a lot of manual processes. AI would be super helpful, and implemented AI and technology to reduce the waste there, to improve the operational efficiency, making processes simpler and faster. And that's how you have to make a decision.
Well, that can be hard because we talked about this earlier. People generally are pretty resistant to change. I think we even said nobody really likes change. Um,
Yes.
so, you know, share with me some experiences that you've had where, you've successfully navigated significant pushback, where somebody just did not want to shift.
I hear you in that. And I think my empathetic leadership helpful in that. So as we have chatted, I told you that people do not like changes, no matter how value it brings in our lives, and including me. I'm not excluding myself. I don't believe that the changes are really great, even if you tell me the value. So there is always going to be that resistance. And knowing that helped me to understand that their resistance is not coming because I am driving this change, it's coming out from certain fears. People are not comfortable in discomfort. Let me tell you that way. Changes makes you discomfort. Brings you from your normal day-to-day life and wants you to do something differently, which I don't think so everybody enjoy doing that. So knowing that, it helps me to connect with the people. It goes back to my original thought of connecting with people. So one of the example I will say it, the global organization which I was talking about, we were expanding so fast. One of the initiative was to create a standardized project management methodology. We call it as GPM, which is a global project methodology. One of my colleague was driving that for different regions, North America, Asia Pacific, and including EU and UK. When they were building it, it was great. It done very correctly. But at the time of launch and implementation, there were roadblocks coming. And I've been called to rescue this initiative to drive it forward because it's a key part of not only for our team, but also helps us to interact with different global clients. So we're talking about billion users we wanted to talk with and billion revenue we are affected by that. So knowing that, my first priority is they are not resisting this change out of some kind of biases. They are resisting change because there is something which is not aligning with what they wanted to do. So, keeping that biases aside, I try to talk with the people who are impacted. So, these are the VP and engagement officers of different region. Setting and talking up with that came to know a pattern. The pattern which shows up that we're trying to implement a methodology which we're trying to make a one-time fix for all, which would not work because we are talking about different regions, different people. One region felt that 75 documentation is too much for them. One region felt that they are not having enough resources to train their people. Another region felt that it's not aligning with what they want to monitor in their initiatives. So combining all this came up with the strategy where I said, yeah, 75 documentation doesn't make sense. The purpose of this initiative was that the leaders and the clients we interact with gets the same information. So if you're getting a status report, it should look like to all CEOs the same. They get the same documentation. It reads different. It reads same, but it doesn't mean how you fill out that information has to be the same. That's not the purpose. So then why we are creating multiple documentation for all team? Some are comfortable with five documentation to fill out this one report, and some are comfortable with one documentation. Let's give that flexibility. Let's give the flexibility that how we indicate the project is turning yellow or red or green. For Asia, the budget is the highest priority. For North America, schedule is the highest priority. So based on this constraint, you indicate why your project is red so the leaders knows what you're trying to achieve here. And considering all these factors and building the strategy around that helps me to create that alignment and able to launch that methodology. So that's one of the example I can share.
So this is really for digital transformation just overall. This isn't just specifically for AI. Like if we were
Yes.
talking about document management and digital
Yeah.
signatures and we wanted to overcome organizational resistance for just, that level of digital transformation, these are the same tactics, right? These are the same principles you would follow.
And absolutely, that's a great point you have made it, because we are thinking that AI is different. AI is something new, so it's different than rest of the technology we have implemented. No, it is not. Yes, the impact, the value it brings would be different, but how we handle the change is very similar. Working in a different industries, I see the same because people are the same. A resistance to the change is a resistance to change is same. It's just the impact and the complexities changes. Healthcare has a different complexity. Real estate has very low complexity compared to the rest of the world. So that's what I mean. Even if you're trying the AI implementation or a transformation specifically to implement AI in your organization, core questions remains the same. Strategies remains the same because we as a people are the same.
Now, sometimes is resistance justified? Like, are there scenarios where an organization is actually right to be hesitant about implementing a new technology?
Great question. I don't think so. I don't see as a right and wrong because the moment I put that in my head, then there is the chances of biases coming in my approach. What I feel is I attack the core question is why you want to do it. And keeping in mind the changes and their impact would not come immediately. There are short term goals, but most of the cases the true usage of your new product, your new technology will show up in yours. That strategy shows up because it takes a people time to understand, use it, and then now use this new technology for better use. AI primarily is the example. Once you learn new technology, for each individual it takes a time. But once you learned it, then how I can leverage AI so that my work improves, my productivity improves, my profit improves takes a time and more people starts using it, it becomes more usable for people. So that's the reason the true identification of a change comes over the time and we see what is the real value it's bringing. So to answer your question, I don't see this as whether it's a true or not. Is something impacting you differently, it's impacting me, and as an individual we both are different. Rather than addressing that, I think so I'll make you or pull you in the other side. I'll make you more change driven rather than opposing the change, and that's what my goal is.
I know one of the things that would cause, well, anybody to think about technology, if you're going to be implementing or adopting new technology, uh, one good cause of hesitancy that is kind of justified is your process. Is your process ready for this adoption? Because we know you've cautioned it too that trying to layer technology onto a broken process is not the recommended way of adopting new technology. So can you expand on that? I mean, what are some like examples from your experience and how did you handle that?
Absolutely. So that goes back to that strategy conversation we were doing it. When you're implementing a new technology or a product, have you analyzed what your current layout looks like, your current environment looks like, how people are working when you're trying to fix it? Are you putting a technology because it's new, it's catchy, and AI is very core of that. Everybody wants to implement the AI. And when I'm having a conversation with people and leaders saying, yes, it's great, AI is usable, my first question to them is, what are you trying to achieve out of it? Every AI models which you want to build in house, or if you are using out of the if it's not building in your own environment and you're using a third party product for AI based, you have to understand the core of AI is data driven. A data would drive the meaningful results for your AI. Your model will be trained if you feed them correct data. And as your data grows, your infrastructure needs to handle it. So that goes back to your process question is your technology ready? Do you have that data to train the AI in a right way so it gives you right information? I don't want to implement AI who gives me an answer which is incorrect. My business will go down, and none of the leaders wants that. So once the data is correct and feeding it to it, it will take a time to see the results. And then the other is the infrastructure readiness. Because as you're growing, as you're scaling your AI model, you're giving and feeding and gathering a tons of data. Your infrastructure needs to be ready for that. So that process of information and data and environment readiness, it's not there. Just talking about AI would not be fruitful, or hiring a bunch of engineers and start building things without not looking into the what current processes you have. It's not going to be helpful.
I had somebody explain it to me and say it's if you think about AI, it's like having a master chef show up in your kitchen I pushed a button, and this chef is just amazing. He can make any dish you can imagine. He's just that good. But you didn't think about what's in your fridge. I have a bottle of spoiled milk, a box of tofu, and a jar of pickles. Well, you have a master chef, but I don't have the ingredients to work with. You didn't build the infrastructure. There's no data. There's nothing for him to work with. So you're going to end up with pickles with mayonnaise on it because I didn't have anything else to work with.
Exactly. Um, a lot of AI models, not as the level of AI which we are thinking about, but the digital models we do have it. Imagine all of us, a lot of us are using smart home systems, and you might have a smart thermometer in your house, and you're setting up in a way saying, okay, in my house, I'm living in Chicago here, so we are going to have a great humid environment. So I want to reduce my humidity. I want to make sure during these sunny days, my air condition is turned on to this level. This the data you are feeding to that model, so that model understands the wet summer comes, and I put it the specific processes there saying when it hits to this temperature, go and start my air condition. I want it to be this level. This is very a simplistic model you can see about it. But if I'm using AI, what I want is it should automatically see the weather and convert it itself. Or give me a warning and say, hey, Rupali, there is extreme heat wave going in Chicago. Do you really want to turn on? Or if I'm ordering some medication because I'm not feeling well, looking into that data and says, you're not feeling well. Do you really need that high AC in your room? Do you want me to lower it down? That is what the next level of AI we are thinking. But to have that, that model needs to know my pattern, should have access to all this information. It's not thinking by itself. We are the one feeding that data.
So I want to play devil's advocate for just a moment because
Sure, I
if
love that.
we're, I want to know what happens if fixing a process takes too long and our competitors surge ahead of us because while we were trying to fix our process before we adopted anything, our competitor already had a good process in place and now they're ahead of us and we are behind. So is incremental technology adoption, is that ever justified? Even with a flawed process, if we're implementing while fixing at the same time, uh, is that a strategy or is that a recipe for disaster?
It depends. It depends upon what you're trying to solve. It cannot be a one size fit all. But in the case which you have said that when you are moving forward and in between somebody has already implemented something, so it's a clear example that the strategy you were driving for was not fruitful enough, or they were better in their strategy and resources, and then they are faster than what you're working on. In any of these situations, I would recommend to be more adaptable, especially when you are doing AI or any kind of a high evolving technology implementation. Adaptability is key. There are challenges would be presented to you, and how you quickly agility wise pivot to new scenarios is where shows up your leadership. So adaptability and agility is what I always say. um, I've been telling and saying this that AI is evolving. So something what we know right now might not be same in future. So what will happen if I'm in the middle of my strategy trying to implement and somebody else comes up with a beautiful new technology which will make my process very faster? That time you have to do your risk analysis, saying is it better to continue in my path, which I've been doing, might be different than your organization, but I'm going to get a results which workable for my organization. In same industry we all have a different goals, and your organization is going for one goal, my organization is going for another goal. Quickly checking is going to serve that purpose, or is the new technology which my competitor or somebody has done it can make my process faster with the less investment, then yes, I will do that. But it costs me more to invest in your new technology rather than continue in mine. I would rather continue with my processes, even though it takes a longer period of time, but it's workable for me and it is more advantage for my organization. So a lot of that is going back to your purposes. Prioritize based on what you wanted to do. It's easy to divert yourself with what others are doing, but focusing on what you want to achieve with the resources and risk management strategies is super helpful.
Well, we have to talk about risk strategy now because, I say let's talk about my favorite topic, embracing failure, because I sure stumble over my feet pretty often. Um, And you highlight that when it comes to innovation, you really have to embrace failure.
Exactly. Yeah, you and I talked about it, and you are not alone. I'm in that same group too. Something which is great and good. Uh, a lot of time, the fear of failure stops us to move forward rather than our own ability, and that's common theme around every human. So when I'm talking with a leader, they all want to be a forward thinking leader. You want to build a strategy for the future generation. You want to build something innovative, creative, disrupt the industries. And all that start with the risk tolerance. So when I'm talking with them, my first question to them is, it's great. I love your mindset. Love what you're trying to achieve here. But what is your risk tolerance looks like? Are you able to take failure to what percentage? So, for example, if you're having $1 billion or $1 million initiative, are you able to take a risk of 30%, 50%? Because when I am building an innovative solution, this is something a groundbreaking work which is nobody has done it in the past. And I'm trying to do it. That's where we call it as an innovative way of working. If I'm modifying some methodology which is already created and I'm putting a creative touch to it, then it becomes a little bit easier because I have a previous data to showcase to the leader saying, hey, it's been done this way, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. The risk here is less, but I'm creating my own methodology complete from ground break. Then it takes more from my leaders to have a risk tolerance because that gives the trust to your people to think outside the box because they are not constantly worried that if this fails my job is in jeopardy, because that's going to be that's the fear in my team when they are writing this. There will be fear in my head saying if I fail here, is my job going to be chopped up? So giving trust to your people is important, but how I gain their trust is also important because this is something new for them. They are also at a high stake. So what I do is give them what is the data here is. What is the risk tolerance looks like? Is it a 30%, 50%? What are my strategies are? I'm a big on a risk management plan driving any initiative, and that works for small, big, and mid-size. Any of your listeners doing any initiative, AI, non-AI, non-technology, risk management plan is so important. Creating a strategy and empowering my team to use them and making sure they're accountable to using them. Every team meeting starts with that risk management plan, what it looks like, where are we in the risk. And the third piece is communication back to them. So my leaders are aware, and I make sure that they understand you will be at every step of this process because I understand it's a high risk and you are also in the same level as all we are. So you are not inside with us in all this transformation, but I want to make sure that you understand this and you get the information. And what we talked earlier is super important here. If I feel that risk is going beyond the tolerance of my leader, where I foresee is Charles was saying 30%, but we are going to go and hit roadblock as a 50%. Communicate to your leaders ahead of a time and telling them that's where I gain their trust, saying, hey, she came to me. She told me what is it, what is my solution looks like. Are we accepting this risk? Then what will be the impact look like? And that gives them confidence to move forward or not. Or are and I'm always adaptable. So it's like if this is not working and if it is not something meaningful to you, what is the best case next step we can take so we are still able to achieve a part of that goal, even not 100%.
I firmly believe that as humans, we learn from failure. We don't learn from success. If you do nothing but succeed, you're not learning anything. So you're never really advancing. You're just kind of maintaining this mid level. Um, and and it's the same, or even more so, when you start talking about innovation, because innovation happens when you're solving problems, which comes through overcoming adversity, which is all about failing. You have to fail if you're going to learn and build something new and, quote unquote, innovate. On the other hand, we are kind of in this climate of economic uncertainty,
Yeah.
right? So when we start talking about promoting high risk tolerance, um, can you see where that could be dangerous in some scenarios?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you, even in this, uncertainty is constant. Like Just taking our timeline 5 years back, we had hit by COVID, everything stopped. Then it started, and people were more virtual than ever, trying to find a new business model that works in that environment. We came out of the COVID, and now people are finding what is that new business model looks like, with people having working in a hybrid environment. Next is the political, then it comes the economical. So the uncertainty is going to be consistent, and when you are driving innovation, I tell you, uncertainty is going to be continuous, and it is at a different level. So it does play in the mind of the leaders. When they are making these decisions on innovation, the return on investment is a key point. Any initiative, whether it's innovative or not, ROI is big. Leaders wanted to know what is on return on investment looks like. What makes it innovation complicated is I don't have historical data to give them exact information. I do give them a ballpark, saying looking at what I have done it in the past, what is the historical similar level has done in the different industries. This is what looks like in ROI to get the funding and the trust from my leaders to move forward with this innovation. But that data driven decision is super important. You have to give them that information. I can't tell them it's in my gut. I feel that my emotions are telling me this is going to be a really great solution. No, in real world it doesn't work like that. So the more data has been shown, and answering their questions helps them to understand this is something they want to move forward or not. And that takes care of it. And with communication, you tell them where we are with the budget, what we are trying to achieve, how much we have spent out of what we were supposed to do. And a lot of time that iterative approach, if you can get it, is really right. Saying some kind of MVP is a great tool. I would highly recommend leaders to use that. I was doing the global collaboration, as I told you about. My first approach that how this big enterprise level transformation would work was to done an MVP in a short environment with a 20 group of people. Seeing the result gets the confidence of the leader saying, hey, it's worth investing billion into this. It's worth investing resources into that. That MVP has given them that sense of achievement so that they could spend that money into my bigger initiative.
All right, I want to talk about one of your recent wins, and it's a pretty big one. I'm excited about this. I want to know more about it. You recently doubled the size of a nonprofit board and you significantly streamlined their operations. So I want to know, how did you manage this rapid pace of growth, and how did you avoid burnout and chaos and complete disorganization, which so often comes with rapid growth?
Absolutely. So when I joined them, they were, it's a passionate group of people. I would say nonprofit organizations runs a lot on a passion because you're passionate about the goals, the mission, and I was all for it. But looking at on the high level, I feel like we are functioning on the opportunities as it feels fitted to them. So if there is new shiny things comes up, everybody excited, started working on it in a 1 month, it doesn't seem excited, and then driving into the next level. So seeing that pattern, we have a huge turnout of people. We were losing people very quickly, and that was impacting organization in such a level that we were spending more time to onboarding and training, and then again hiring or new people after 1 month of a time. So all that struggle, I identified that there is not a structure to the board. So I looked into what are the nonprofit model looks like. And for our organization, it felt that we should be a model where everybody has an equal voice. There are people who would, the board members should be acting more as a board of director rather than board of advisory, because we need more out of these people. And looking at the processes, I felt that we needed more people on development side, on fundraising, in grants, and they need to have certain skill set which has not been filled up by right now. In past, they used to hire people based on what they are currently looking or doing, not a forward thinking. Like this is the goal of the organization. So aligning that, I created out that we need to have six more people in a board which follows the structure, which have the skill set. Technology was a big help in that. leverage AI into streamlining hiring processes and onboarding. There's a soul of the person who is working on the organization. He is spending more hours on administrative tasks than actually doing work for the organization, which is meaningful, which he would love to do it, but doesn't have a bandwidth. He's spending hours on writing a job description, hours on training people. My approach was, let's use AI to take what you have a vision and make it as a forward thinking aligned with the goals. That has reduced 30% of the waste and improved the operation efficiency. For hiring and training people, recording the meetings, doing Zoom AI information will be super helpful so people can have the narration with the scripts and with the information would reduce the time. So he's not training people 15 times on the same content. It's like, this is a good use of your time. So combining all of this has helped us to grow tremendously. We are not only hiring more at a board level, but also hiring more people underneath the board. So now we are doubling more on the people side of the organization also. So that's the great. I feel so great about that achievement.
I really loved your definition of waste when we talk about efficiency, because I've heard many different definitions of that word efficiency and what that means. For most people, it seems to be, well, now I can do twice the amount of output, and that always seems like I'm going to be more busy rather than more efficient. So the idea of just thinking about how often do you perform a task and think to yourself, this is such a waste of my time. And if you can cut all of that out, that is so much time in your day that is suddenly freed up and is now automated.
Absolutely. And with your background and doing a lot of on documentation piece we talked about, that is so super helpful. Like efficiency feels like to them is like waste something as a physical, but no, there is our time is most important and valuable as a resource. What we work upon and what we spend our time on is so important. A lot of time we don't have that choice because these are the tasks never used to be automated. But thinking about it, using technology in a right way, I feel like that's the best approach, and this is the best value a technology can bring. And this is the value I think so most of the AI driven organization is trying to do, is not to eliminate people, but use the technology so that you leverage it for your advantage. You use your time in a more productive work rather than using something which can be done with the technology.
All right, before we go, I have 5 rapid fire questions that I'm going to throw at you. And these are just for fun. So, don't think about it too much. Just like whatever comes to the top of your mind, just blurt it out for me. What is your favorite technology tool or app?
Technology tool or app, I would say lately I've been liking Motion a lot.
Okay.
It's a documentation. I use it a lot for journaling, listing, sharing content. I'm also writing a book, so it helps me in organization of that too.
All right. What is one book you would recommend for every leader?
Oh my gosh, that's Charles. You can't put me in that position, and I'm really bad with names. Now, I think so. The Mountain is You. I
Oh,
feel that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
that's a great book. I would highly recommend anyone to read that. It's such a great tool for me and helpful in my personal, professional, everyday life. I just love that book.
All right, finish the sentence for me. Innovation without blank is useless.
Strategy.
I agree. All right, what is the biggest misconception people have about AI?
Oh, AI gonna take the job. There are gonna be robots running around, and I would not be useful at all in this life.
All right, last one. What is one practical first step that a leader can take today to embrace AI effectively?
Start learning about AI. Learn AI as much as possible. There are great information available in so many podcasts, in so many informations. There are conferences. There are so many certifications available, which is at a free of cost. What I would do is learning that strategically. There are tons of information available. Prioritize what works for your business. Prioritize for works for your goals. If you are in healthcare, you wanted to read more about AI making your people's life better, your patients life better, your healthcare industry, how they are implementing it. The more you learn, more you can leverage it for the better of your company.
Today, Rupali reminded us that AI is not a silver bullet. It is a strategic tool that demands thoughtful integration. So whether you're addressing resistance or you're fixing a broken process or you're taking calculated risks, true innovation is about aligning people with purpose. Rupali, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun.
Same here. Thank you for taking time. And I hope this gives value to all the viewers and the listeners of your podcast. I'm happy to answer any question if you wanted to talk more about it. As you know, I'm very passionate about this conversation.
Absolutely. I would love to have you back sometime. I feel like we could probably keep talking for hours. I'm going to have links to your social and to your websites down in the description below. So people who are watching, who are listening, I do recommend going to the description, clicking on those links and learning more. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on the Digital Impact. Until next time, keep leading thoughtfully.